Vijay Mallya did not cheat India. Vijay Mallya did not steal money from Indians. In this video, I'm going to discuss about why I'm saying that. Please hit the like and subscribe button to help this channel grow if you like this kind of content. And let's jump straight into it. Alright, so Vijay Mallya was a big business tycoon based out of Bangalore, and he had multiple businesses, Kingfisher Beer being the most famous and lucrative all of them. Now he did step into multiple businesses, such as he bought an IPL team, he bought a Formula One race team. So he introduced Formula One to India. He was also responsible for introducing the pop culture to cities like Bangalore and overall India. Now, of course, one day he decided to start an airlines business, and so hence he started Kingfisher Airlines. Now, obviously, you need a lot of money to start a business like that, so he went and approached the banks in order to get some money to start this business. Now, when you go to a bank for a business loan, that's a very common thing, and usually banks go through a list of documents to check the viability of the business idea, the credibility of the founder, and decide whether it is okay to give that money as loan to this business, and is there guarantee and there is a way that they'll get that money back. It was a consortium of banks that were approached for this business loan, and obviously this whole consortium was led by SBI. Now, SBI did this whole viability, and they found out that the business idea was viable, and they found that the credibility of the founder was good enough, and so they gave it a check mark and ended up lending this money to Kingfisher Airlines. Now, some would say that, look, Mallya was a rich businessman, and so he would have used his clout to get some of these bankers sanction these loans. Now, if that's the case, then I feel that the banks and the bankers are to be blamed more than Vijay Mallya himself. There's this old saying in finance that if you owe $100 to the bank, then that's your problem. But then if you owe them $100 million, then that's the bank's problem. So anyways, let's assume that this was all done the right way, and that the banks actually then went ahead and issued the loan to Kingfisher Airlines. Now, they started operations back in 2005, and for the time that they were in operations, if you have had a chance to travel with Kingfisher Airlines, I'm sure you would have seen the difference that they brought in that industry. Just because you travel with Kingfisher Airlines, it felt really different. It felt a little above just the middle class. It felt high class. And that's just the nature of businesses that Vijay Mallya usually has gotten into. He's had a flamboyant lifestyle, and his businesses also tend to be flamboyant in nature. And so it was great to see that Kingfisher Airlines was offering the things that it was doing back in when it was operating. Things like in-flight entertainment, in-flight meals, and the experience that you get even if you're in the airport and they know that you're traveling by Kingfisher Airlines, you were treated slightly differently. Now, this was not possible for a middle-class man before Kingfisher came in and gave all of this, or made all of this possible for the common man. It gave a tough competitions for some of the old horses in the businesses, such as Air India or Jet Airways. Obviously, he had a good idea in mind, the banks believed them, and they gave them money, and the customers started to like that airlines more than the other airlines. Unfortunately, the business started to go into losses after a certain amount of time. Now, there are many reasons why that happened. Some of the reasons mentioned is because it was Vijay Mallya's inexperience in the airlines or the aviation industry. And so because of that, he and his management team ended up making a few financial decisions that were not right for the company in the long term. The fuel prices apparently around that time were also skyrocketing. And so that hurt a lot of the airline companies. And it was not just Kingfisher, but some of the other airlines as well were suffering from the same problem. There were some policy changes apparently that also hurt these airline companies. So it was not just Kingfisher Airlines that started to see losses around that time, but it was all the other airlines like Air India, like Jet Airways, that all started to see losses. Apparently, he also made a big deal by buying Air Deccan. It is said that deal ended up costing him more than giving him benefit. And apparently after that, everything went just downhill. And eventually in 2012, Kingfisher Airlines was forced to shut down. Okay, when it was shut down, it is said that Kingfisher Airlines owed about 6,000 crores to the banks that it borrowed money from, and this was just the principal amount. If you add interest on top of that, it looks like the amount was more like 9,000 crores. That's a big amount. It was not just the banks though. They owed money to the airport authorities because they were delinquent with them, apparently to the income tax department, and more importantly, to its own employees. It is said that the Kingfisher Airlines owes about 300 crores in just employee salaries to its own employees, which had almost between 5,000 to 6,000 employees when it actually shut down back in 2012. Let me make a comparison with Kingfisher Airlines and another airlines, which is Air India. Now, like I was saying earlier, that around the same time, all the airlines were suffering. If we look at what happened with Air India around the same time, it looks like Air India went through the same troubles. They also were looking at certain financial decisions that were made that were not good in the long term for the company. The fuel prices affected them too. They also had strikes by the employees because of lower wages, safety conditions, so on and so forth. So there were a lot of problems that even Air India was facing. In 2009, because it is owned by the government gave Air India 3,000 crores as bailout money to solve their problems. 3,000 crores just handed out to Air India, despite all the mismanagement that had happened up until then. Now you would think that that's enough, but just in 3 years after that, they still weren't out of their problems. And in 2012, the Indian government then gave 30,000 crores to Air India as another bailout money. And if that wasn't enough, recently in 2018, government gave an additional 98,000 crores to Air India. If you add all this up, it comes to more than about 1.25 lakh crores of money that was given to Air India to bail it out of all the problems that it had gotten into. Compare that with the 9,000 crores that Kingfisher Airlines is defaulted at. Now there's another big difference between these two, right? The money that Kingfisher Airlines owes is to the banks. So where does the bank get the money from? The bank's money is something that it gets from its other customers. So like you and me, when we deposit money into the bank, it's that money that's utilized to give out as loans to people that are looking for loans. But the difference is that it's our money. So if I've put the money in the bank is liable to pay that back to me when I need it or when I want it. But the money that went to Air India was the government bailing them out. Where does the government get the money from? That's coming from our tax money. Now, the difference between the money that we give to the bank to keep in our savings account or current account and the money that we pay as taxes to the government is that we still get the money that's in our savings account, but the tax money is gone. And so whatever money was paid to Air India was our hard-earned money, tax money, that went to Air India, whereas Kingfisher Airlines has gotten money from the bank and it's not necessarily the taxpayers' money. Okay, so that was the big difference between how these airlines suffered and what sort of money was caught up in this whole thing. Now that we understand that, it makes sense that, it looks like Air India owes us a lot more. It looks like they should be called the thieves. But no, I've seen some videos on social media of Indians in the UK or London, shooting a video of Vijay Mallya walking on the roads and cursing at him, saying, "Shame on you, well, give me my money back." Well, you don't even know half of the information or don't even have half the knowledge of what actually happened and transpired. Why aren't people going to Air India, and shouting slogans there saying, "Give me my money back"? Because we don't understand that. We don't know how this whole finance thing works. And that's in the UK, in London. It wouldn't be a surprise, or it wouldn't have been a surprise if Vijay Mallya was still in Bangalore, that you would have seen on the news that there are people vandalizing his properties or his homes, trying to gain some political mileage by saying that we're doing this in the interest of the common man. And the poor people in India would have gotten fooled because of that, thinking, oh yeah, well, you know what, this political party is really nice. They look out for the poor people. I think maybe Vijay Mallya even knew that. He even went on to say that I don't think I'll get a fair trial in India. And maybe that's why he chose to leave the country and seek asylum in the UK. And he's fighting the battle from there. I saw a video on YouTube the other day where the guy goes saying, in 2016, the whole country was shocked because then Vijay Mallya took this 6,000 crores and he ran away to the UK. No, he did not. He did not take the 6,000 crores and ran to the UK. All of that money was used for Kingfisher Airlines. That's how the business ran. I mean, a lot of ignorance in what's happened in this case has resulted in him becoming like a super villain of some sort. Interestingly, I found this video on YouTube recently of Nikhil Kamath. Nikhil Kamath is the co-founder of Zerodha, and he has a podcast in which there's a mention where he and one of his guests are discussing about Vijay Mallya, and they say that, Vijay Mallya has probably paid most, if not all, of his dues back to the banks. Now, I don't know how true that is, but it's coming from somebody who has got some credibility, someone like Nikhil Kamath. If there is any truth to that, if not the whole thing, if he has paid most of it back, then he started to pay the money to the banks back already, unlike Air India, where it's just the taxpayers' money, so it's come and it's gone. Nobody is liable to pay anything back to us. The one thing that I do feel sad about, though, are the employees of Kingfisher Airlines, because they lost their jobs, high-paying jobs that too, and there was a big dent in their career. So I'm sure that they would have suffered, and their families would have suffered back in that time when Kingfisher Airlines was forced to shut down. And I really hope and pray that they've been able to find their way back and are doing better now. And I also hope that somehow they do get their dues paid back to them for all the salaries that were actually not paid back. But other than that, if Vijay Mallya has started to pay back these banks, why don't we see that in the news? Why is that not coming out on one of the news channels that, if not all, let's say, of the 6,000 crores, he has paid X amount back to the banks? None of that is out. Maybe there is some higher power, that benefits from the fact that Vijay Mallya continues to be the poster child of the defaulters, the poster boy that makes every election seem like, I'm going to talk about Vijay Mallya, gain some sympathy from the people of India, invoke some emotion in them, call these guys as the villains, and then make myself look like, I'm the guy, I'm the savior, and probably in return get some votes. So in reality, that may not be the case though. In reality, maybe the ones that we're thinking are the villains may not necessarily be as bad, and the ones that we think are the saviors may actually be the villains in disguise. Let me know what you think about this in the comments section below, whether you agree or you don't, and do you think Vijay Mallya should be allowed back in India? Because personally, I feel like he was and has been a great business tycoon. He has been able to do a lot of benefit economically to India, and I'm sure he should have learned from all the mistakes that he did with Kingfisher Airlines. And with that, hopefully, has gotten smarter, more intelligent as a businessman. And if he comes back to India, hopefully can do a lot more for us than he has been able to in the last few years. Let me know in the comment section whether you agree or not, and I'll see you in the next video.